Yeah. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good evening. We're just gonna wait another minute or so to allow more people to filter in, and then we can go ahead and get started. Yeah, in the meantime, if you guys would feel comfortable putting your student's grade in the chat, just so we know who's coming in.
Nice. We got a good mix of 11th graders, 10th graders, just some first years.
I think we should be good to start. So, hi everyone. Welcome to creating a summer personal project. How to build a unique initiative that sets you apart. We're so glad that you're joining us today.
We are going to go through how to build a meaningful and standout summer project, and one that's not just impressive to college applications, but also something that truly aligns with your students' interests and values.
So, hi everyone. My name is Coach Jasmine. I'm one of the college admissions coaches here at egelloC. I'm so glad you're joining us today for this special summer session all about personal projects. This is one of the most underrated ways for students to stand out in the college admissions process.
And hi everyone, I'm Coach Alyza, also an admissions coach here. And whether you're just starting to explore your interests or already knee-deep in a passion project, today's session is designed to give you the tools, clarity, and ideas to take that spark and then turn it into something meaningful and also college admissions worthy.
So as coaches, we work with students one-on-one to help them find the kind of direction and depth that admissions officers love to see. And personal projects are a powerful way to show leadership, curiosity, and initiative, which are all things that colleges care about.
So what we're going to do is walk you through some examples of real student projects, help you brainstorm on your own, and then also share how we can translate these strong personal projects into supplements, personal statements, and even interviews.
So in terms of what we'll cover, on the agenda for tonight is what is a personal project? Why do summer projects matter? How to find your project idea, plan and executing your project, tips, tools, and mistakes to avoid. And then we're going to follow up with some real student examples, as well as next steps so that students know what to do after this webinar.
And some quick housekeeping for y'all. Please drop any questions in the Q&A box, and then the replay and our bonus gift would also be shared within 48 hours.
So let's start off with what is a personal project. A personal project is usually a student-led initiative that's outside of school. So it reflects who the student is, what they care about, and what they're curious to explore. It doesn't have to be formal, it doesn't have to be fancy. It could be like a blog, a podcast, a tutoring program, an art installation, or even a self-published book.
Exactly. And so the key here is that it's self-initiated. So something that's genuinely interested by the student, and ideally it has to have some kind of impact on either the student or the community. So colleges are really asking, what does the student do when no one's telling them what to do? So a summer project really shows drive, creativity, and also that students are serious about their interest. All top quality schools really love to see this. So some of these examples can include maybe setting up a podcast for teens about mental health. It could also be a STEM camp for younger students in middle school. It could also be something fun like creating a documentary about the local history of the community or the neighborhood, or even a personal art exhibit.
Yeah. And the thing with a project is usually it will reflect a personal interest or passion of the students. It doesn't have to be the student's major. It could be sports or any hobbies that they're interested in. Um, as long as it helps solve a problem or a community, and it produces a tangible result. So if a student can create a website, an event, an article, a product, just something to show for what they're doing with their project. So in terms of why summer projects matter, there's three big reasons. First, they demonstrate initiative. Colleges love to see students taking action on their own.
And there's also three big reasons why they demonstrate the quality of the student and their character development over this project is that they really love to see the student taking action on their own.
And then the depth is next. So if, for example, a student's application says that they're interested in environmental science, then if they spend their summer designing a community garden or testing water quality in their neighborhood, that's powerful because it aligns with their major.
Exactly. So this is also showing their authentic interests, and they also gives college readers the idea of what is really meaningful to them. And this is a great segue to how they can really turn these activities into some things that they could talk about in their essays, in their PIQs, or their personal statements. This could also translate into any interviews or college activity lists that they want to put on and really give an understanding of how they have grown through this process. This is a great way for students to really stand out from other applicants who have maybe similar grades or test scores.
Yeah, and the thing is when it comes to college admissions advisors usually look at three main components of a student, and it's their academics, their extracurriculars, and their essay. When Alyza is saying that it helps students stand out from other applicants, usually students have one piece of the puzzle done with their academics, but this really brings their extracurriculars portion to life. So in terms of how to start, this is usually the hardest part for students, and it's about finding the right idea. So we recommend by starting off with this simple framework. First is, what are you curious or excited about? Second, who or what do you care about? And third, who would benefit from something that you create or do?
And some other questions that the students can ask themselves is, what problem do I see in the community? What frustrates me? Or even what excites me? So what is the student doing at 2 a.m. Googling? And that's something that they find for fun. So some ideas could be building a game review blog for those who love gaming. It could also be organizing a park cleanup for students who are passionate about the environment, or even launching a student interview series if your student is interested in storytelling.
So a personal project can look really different depending on the student's major. Just to give some ideas of what that could look like, these are some types of personal projects. So for students who are more creatively based, they can do something like a photography exhibit, a short story collection, or a music album, just something that gets them in touch with their creativity. Second, for students who are more towards research, they could do something like an independent study, lab experiments, or a white paper.
Exactly. And then so another type of personal project could be service oriented as well. So this could be organizing a fundraiser or a workshop or educational initiatives. Some ideas that students have come up with if they are interested in the medical field is organizing a blood drive or even a health initiative wellness class. And another type of personal project that students can also do is a business or entrepreneurship focus-based project. So this could be developing an app for those who are coders, or even building a small business. And this could be doing having a shop at a farmer's market, or even having a digital shop online like Etsy.
Now, and at the end of the day, what's important is even though there's different types of personal projects, it's giving students more experience in the line of what they'd like to do later on. Usually students they have an idea of what they want to do, but it stops at that. It's only an idea. When you're able to take it a step further, that's where the beauty of a personal project really comes in. So in terms of step by step, bringing it to life, Um, first thing that a student should do after analyzing those three questions in the framework is researching the topic. So taking a look at other people who have done something similar, what worked for them and what didn't. And this is where YouTube, blogs, podcasts, or even Reddit can be gold mines. And don't discount free learning platforms either, such as Khan Academy, Coursera, or even TikTok creators. They can offer quick, digestible insights. And number two is outlining the project scope, such as what will you be doing during this project, what's the timeline, and what materials or help do you need. Really putting the structure in place will help you as you go along the project, because inevitably some students, when they plan for larger projects, they get really into the details, they kind of lose themselves. So when you plan out a timeline set for like 3 or 4 weeks, and also you list out what resources you have for support, usually ends up helping the student finish everything.
All right. And then for step 3 is to build a mini plan. So really outlining what to do on a weekly basis. So if it's a 4-week plan, for example, week 1 could be choosing your theme and making a logo. Week 2 could be recording the first episode of a podcast. Week 3 could be editing and publishing it. And then week 4 could be promoting and reflecting on that process of recording a podcast and putting it together. And it's really helpful to set some deadlines and checkpoints for the student, just so that they can keep themselves accountable, and even do a weekly check-in with a friend or even with the family, just to help them keep on track, and also to have space for them to reflect about their experiences, to really talk about like what was hard about creating this podcast. Was it learning a new software? Was it learning how to edit things? Or did they really enjoy the promotion part of really sharing the episode with their family and friends? So as long as there's also a section for reflection, this is also important as well. And then lastly is to execute, right? So if it is starting a business, we really want to see how that business came to life. And it's always important to start small and then to stay consistent. We want to make sure that these projects are achievable within the time frame of the summer. And then it's also really important for the students to also document their progress. So this could be doing vlogs on the side. It could be just taking photos, just to keep a record of what their process has been, or even doing a journal and just keeping track of what the day-to-day look like.
And what Alyza was saying earlier about like just making sure that you get started. Typically, when students think about project scope, there's something called a minimum viable product, or you could adapt it to be project. So for example, if a student goes out and they say, I want to create a podcast with so many episodes and like about 6 of them, usually it's good to think about what's the minimum deliverable or minimum outcome for this project that would be acceptable. Because usually students will run into little bumps along the way, and it makes it harder to achieve the original goal that they set out. So keeping this minimum viable project in mind will help them, so that at least by the very end, you're staying on task to create something. So let's go on to the next step.
We also have some quick questions, Jasmine, just so we're on the same topic as well. So someone asked, how do you contact for arranging blood drives and events? Because I'm kind of stuck as I don't have many connections. I think even Googling really quick, like local blood drives, and that's one way that you can partner with the local community. It doesn't have to be straightly from the student. And then just asking like local clinics or even hospital, and something that the student can contribute to. So maybe there is already someone planning it and they just need, the extra support. That's something that the student could help with. So that's also just some advice there. And then the other question that we have is for gaming app blog. Can you elaborate more? How can it impact the community in a positive way? Yes, I think this is a really good question when it comes to like gaming. How can we put that in a positive experience? I think of this in education, right? What are some great educational gaming games that the student can review? Maybe it's math games, or maybe like maybe games that other teens can be interested within, like wellness. So it doesn't have to be strictly like games, but it could be something that can help people in different ways. Anything to add, Jasmine?
Yes, so first for the blood drive, if you're looking for anything medical, usually they're looking for volunteers all the time. So usually something to help the student with initiative is actually having them be the one to reach out by email. If there is like Red Cross or another group that facilitates the blood drive, you could have the student email them and say, "Hi, my name is Jasmine. I am a high school junior or sophomore. I'm really interested in health, and I know that usually you guys do blood drives. Would I be able to volunteer and help out? Can you like just let me know any dates or anything like that?" So that's one way of going about it. And then the pertaining to the second question, for someone who's interested in app dev or games design, there's things called hackathons, and they're actually really great because there's a lot of like-minded students who gather and they'll create either programs that help with like tracking analytics for student dashboards, or there is a little bit of game design that I've seen in past hackathons that I've been to. So if you'd like to create like a project for a hackathon and just present it, or you could incorporate teaching younger students how to do like game design, if that's something that you're into, that would be another great thing. At the end of the day, it's tying in a problem in the community or something that you're very passionate about creating and having an end product. So I hope that gives some ideas. Were there any more questions? I can't see the chat.
Those are it for now. But
Okay.
feel free to also continue asking questions.
Okay, great. Awesome. So let's move on to the next part. In terms of documenting your work. So usually students will want to keep records of their project, and it's good to have like progress photos, journal entries, or a blog, photos or videos of their progress, and also any record of the final product, whether that's a portfolio, a website, or a presentation.
Exactly. Even if it's just casual updates like voice memos or even behind the scenes snapshots, all of these can help to really tell the story later on.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you do want to create like a digital home for it. This will help for when students are applying to college, they'll have something to reference back to because a lot of the time students have a lot going on with SAT, ACT, the usual school year, along with college apps. So if you can create a digital home for it, it'll be easier for future reference. So you could create a website or a digital portfolio. You could share it on social media or local news. You can submit it to competitions like the hackathon we were talking about, or film festivals, so on, for different majors, or present it at school. And lastly, of course, write about it in your common activities or your essays.
Exactly. And so the big why behind documenting your work is when it comes to writing your Common App or your PIQs, this is going to be what you refer back to jog your memory of what this project was really about. So all of this documentation becomes gold later down the line. So instead of trying to remember it as you're writing your essay, these are all real artifacts that you could look back on to look at your growth, the impact that you made, and also your creativity. So again, just keep records and stay organized of all the things that you're doing. Don't be shy about sharing it, right? So this is really your way to shine in the projects and the things that you're passionate about and what you're interested in. This is also a great way for your future self to look back on and really be proud of the work that you did.
Yeah. So in terms of top tips for success. So one is to start with something that you care about. So this is going to go back to that framework about who or what could benefit from the project that you have in mind. Two is making it realistic. So this is where we were talking about that minimum viable project. Small wins are powerful. Um, it's just really going after it and putting in the effort, even if it's just small increments at a time. The third part is using free tools. So Google Sites, Canva, YouTube, or Wix, those are all free for students. Fourth is consistency over perfection. So because this is a work in progress, if a student can dedicate an hour a week or so, usually this will lead to better results as opposed to expecting perfection from the get-go and then feeling daunted when it's not panning out the way that they thought. Seeking feedback from mentors or teachers, usually having someone who could look through the project as you're going through it. That way you can get feedback on how it's going. It usually ends up being quite valuable. And then lastly, reflecting on what you've learned along the way. This could be gold for the essays. So Moving on to, conversely, common pitfalls to avoid.
Yeah, so some mistakes to avoid here is to be overly ambitious about the ideas without having a plan. So again, don't wait for the perfect idea. Done is better than perfect, and making sure that you can start small and be able to execute it. Next one is choosing a topic that only impresses colleges. If your heart's not in it, then colleges will see that. So it's really important for the student to do something that they're passionate in, because that is where they'll spend their time and energy. Um, Next is not finishing or documenting the project. So again, that's why we shared earlier why it's so important to document, take pictures, journals, voice memos, just to gather that data, the evidence that you've done this project from start to finish. And then lastly is doing it entirely on your own when help is available. Just because this is a personal project does not mean that it is all on your own. You have your teachers, you have your friends, your family, your community to really lean on. And I think that is what makes it more powerful and more impactful, is that if you're collaborating with others and letting them in on this project, so that it also feels like the student has been doing this with the community and collaboration.
Mhm. So now that we've gone through tips for success and common pitfalls, let's go into examples from some of our students, just to really illustrate this concept. So student A, we had a student who was interested in business as her major. And something that was very notable about her was she knew she wanted to do business because one of her parents, they were working really hard and she saw that. So she was, sometimes they would be able to watch Shark Tank together, and she fondly remembers those times. So her idea was, as someone being interested in business and having that tie to Shark Tank, she wanted to teach middle schoolers how to go through like a little mock Shark Tank. And at the end of it, there were business owners who would evaluate the students' projects. Um, so that was something that was impactful for her, helped solve a problem in the community where it was helping middle schoolers gain more business acumen. Um, and it had authenticity in it because she could relate it to a personal tie of her story. And then student B is a tennis ball recycler. So there's a student who I forget what it was, but somehow I think he had ties to a country club, whether through his parents or playing there himself. But he noticed that there were a lot of tennis balls that were being wasted at the end of the day. So what he did was he got in contact with them and he wanted to see if they could recycle some of the tennis balls or otherwise clean and reuse them. So I think by the end of that project, he had recycled about 5,000 tennis balls. And lastly, student C, actually, I want to go back to the previous slide for just one moment. So choosing a topic only to impress colleges. Um, I think for student C, this will come in handy. So for student C, what they did was in their city, there is a street that was quite dangerous for students to cross, mainly being that there was no safety controls, like a stop sign or anything. So what they wanted to do was track how many people would actually use the crosswalk, like how much traffic there was. And in that sense, they would be able to have a quantifiable, like justifiable basis for presenting their case that there should be more safety controls for that crosswalk. The thing was, is that they weren't able to complete it, but at the end of the day, they were still able to talk about that experience of putting in the work to set it up. There were just a lot of loopholes for them to go through, but they were able to still talk about it because their why was strong, like why they decided to go about this project in the first place. So going back to Alyza's point earlier, choosing a topic only to impress colleges. Now, this student didn't finish their project, but they chose a topic that mattered to them. So they were still able to talk about it, and it authentically showed a side of them where they have initiative, but they also cared about their community.
Yes, exactly. So these personal projects don't always have to be quote unquote a success, right? It is the idea of going through a problem that you see in the community, something that you're passionate about, creating a solution, and then seeing how it goes. So the main themes of all of these three projects is that they did something that was really genuinely interested for them. So something that was personally connected to something they were passionate about, whether it's like teaching students for middle school on how to do business, or really thinking about the environment and how to recycle tennis balls, or how to have safety within the community and the crosswalk. So again, the main things to know here is that it is initiative. These are students that saw something in their community and said, hey, I want to fix this in this way. And whether or not it happened and whether or not it was successful, I think even the effort of putting this in and saying, hey, I want to, do something for my community, it already speaks volumes to the colleges.
Mhm. So actually that brings us to what colleges will see from this. So from a college admissions perspective, when you take on a personal project, admissions officers don't just see the end product, they see the qualities that speak volumes about who the student is as a student and a person.
Exactly. And so when they see that the student is taking initiative, it's really showing off that you can do something on your own, and that you are taking leadership and ownership of something that you're interested in.
They'll also see creativity in how the student decides to approach the problem. Even if it was in a simple or scrappy way, at the end of the day, it's what the student was able to put together through their own.
Exactly. And then when it comes to leadership, it doesn't always mean that the student has to be at the forefront of the project or the ones leading the pack. Leadership is really about the actions that you show up with. So are you helping the people around you? Are you able to support others people, maybe tutor them, give them guidance, give them coaching? So when it comes to leadership, we don't always want to say like it's the front person, but it really is how your actions are being conveyed.
For impact, it doesn't have to be huge numbers like I helped 100 people or 50 people. It can really just be helping a few people in a meaningful way or showing your ability to follow through with what you say you'll do.
And then lastly, of course, that we've already mentioned is to show that passion and drive. So I think this is actually the secret sauce, and this is what college admissions will really see, is that if you could talk about your passion and your drive for this project, it reflects that you genuinely care about it, and then colleges will take notice.
So at the end of the day, this project isn't about telling, this whole initiative isn't about telling colleges who you are in your essay. It's about showing them who you are. So in terms of a call to action, first, pick just one idea. To summarize, don't overthink it. Choose something that excites you, even if it feels small. One focused, finished project is way more powerful than 5 unfinished ones. Second is to make a simple plan. So again, break it down into weekly tasks. You don't need a 10-page blueprint. Just know what you're working with, when, and how.
And then third is to document your journey. So take photos, write journal entries, record short videos, whatever works for you and whatever you're comfortable with. This really helps you tell the story later on in essays or interviews. And finally, reflect and share what you've learned, whether it's through a blog post, a short presentation, or just talking it through with someone and taking the time to process what you did and how you grew.
So we'll also be sending a free worksheet with brainstorming prompts and planning steps to everyone who opts in at the very end. You can text our team, but we'll have all of that up on a slide. And now we'd love to share with you all an amazing opportunity for your student this summer. All right, so if you're still with us, thanks again for spending time with us today, diving into personal projects. Before we wrap, I wanted to show you something really cool that's happening this summer, especially for students who are curious, creative, or just want to do something meaningful and different. It's called the Summer Startup Challenge. So this is a 4-week program where you'll go from idea to launch, literally creating a digital product, putting it on a live website, learning how to get your first customers, and some students even make real revenue from what it is that they build. But even if you don't care about the money, what you walk away with is something that's pretty substantial. a project that shows leadership, initiative, and problem solving, everything we talked about. All the stuff that colleges love and help students grow real life skills.
Right, and then here's a little bit of a breakdown of it. So, for the 4 weeks that you'll be spending with us, in the first week, we'll help you find and test your idea. And then week two, we'll help you build your product, even give you a template and walk you through it. Week three, we'll launch your site. And then week four, we'll really focus on starting to reach out to your first customer. So you'll get short weekly trainings, 2 live coaching calls a week, and then all the tools and examples you need to really make it happen. Plus, this is going to be a very small group of other students doing the same thing, so you won't be doing this alone.
So, if you're the kind of person who's interested in entrepreneurship or you just want a summer project that turns into something real, this might be a good fit. We'll have this link to the startup challenge at the very end. If any of you guys are interested, feel free to text our team and they'll send the information your way. No pressure, and just wanted to make sure you know that it's there in case you're looking for something a little bit different or something that could turn into something bigger later down the line. So now we're going to open it up to questions. Happy to answer any questions, whether it's about project ideas, how to stay on track, or how to include this in your college application later.
We do have a Q&A, or we have a question from one of our attendees. It says, "Hi, I am a sophomore, and what would be a good personal project for someone who has aspirations for BS or MD or just the medical field? I want to focus on asthma, and I already did a personal project incubator, but I'm stuck now. My initial idea was to take a survey from asthma patients in the hospital and then create an app or website constantly telling them what they can do. Since I had asthma when I was a child, I feel like this would be strong, but I am not able to find patients for data."
You are not able to find patients for data. I take a second to let's see. The things that come to mind is since you have lived experience as someone who has had asthma before, what I would think about first is what is the information you wish you had earlier on. So I think that would be what would be helpful for you to incorporate in this app or website that you want to develop. Second is if you're looking for people to roll this out to, I would look for any organizations that specifically help with awareness or any resources for people with asthma. Reach out to them, share with them your idea, and see where that gets you. At the end of the day, you're creating something to help others. So if you reach out to quite a couple of organizations or groups, you never know where that's going to take you. So that's how I would answer. Anything that you'd like to add, Eliza?
Yeah, I think additionally, starting with school, maybe asking classmates or even just like community members, getting a pattern of even like how many students at school have asthma and what is something they wish that they had at school that's not available yet. So, something that could really help just the immediate community. It doesn't have to be something super big, but something small that can really make an impact. So maybe just getting some data about like your current school can be a good start.
Or you could also alternatively create it into like a Google form. And then ask if your bio teacher or any of your teachers that you have a good relationship with would mind if you shared it with the class.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah. Uh,
All
next
right.
question.
Next question. Is there a cost to the summer project?
Oh, okay. So that's if you text our team after, they would be able to share out the details with you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? I'm actually really excited about this summer startup challenge. I wish I had something like this back when I was in high school. And the cool thing is that you're going to be doing this with other students, so you get to collaborate with them and give each other ideas. And by the end of it, you'll have a project that's completed that you could share with other businesses. And the person who's actually leading this is our COO, Ray, and he has built so many build businesses. And to have that one-on-one or like that group coaching with him will be so amazing to be able to get like his insights on like how he was able to build businesses, and really start thinking about what is the mindset of an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I went back to the slide. Has built over 20 companies. He was a mentor for the Harvard Innovation Lab. He was featured in Forbes and a couple other places, and he's a Fortune 500 plus Silicon Valley experience. So, yeah. Taking a look at the Q&A, let's see. Is running a small summer camp for little kids considered a personal project? Um, It'll go back to, does this have a strong why for the student? So if there is some problem that they feel like they're solving or some way that they feel like they're stepping in a way that it matters to them, I would say that perfectly fits a personal project. Any thoughts there, Eliza?
Yeah, I think it's also what actions are they taking in the summer camp for the little kids can also be important. What's the impact? And also, yeah, just really digging deep on that why. And then another question that we have is, what if the summer project is not at all connected to the major? Would that be all right? I think this is a really good question. And the way I like to answer this is that you will have your major related activities and your non-major related activities. And it's important to have both. One, to show that you are interested in your major and you're doing activities aligned with that. And then to also show your diverse interests. It doesn't always have to be everything aligning to that major, because you could be a math student who loves to dance, and to really show like, I love dancing because of XYZ. I get creative and I really like to, perform. So I think it's definitely okay to have a summer project that's not related to the major, as long as, again, that we are focusing on the why and the impact.
Yeah, and to add to that, it would take like taking a step back and taking a look at the student's total profile. So like Eliza said, there's extracurriculars that the student engages in for progressing in their major. And then there are extracurriculars that they genuinely are very interested in, just for fun outside of that. So to answer your question, if the student already has quite a bit that they've done for their major, such as clubs at school, summer programs, internships, so on, then I would say absolutely it could be something that's unrelated to their major. But if your student has quite a bit under the extracurriculars that they enjoy, such as sports or clubs that they do for fun, but there's not anything quite yet under major preparation, then I would tailor it more towards the major. So just something to think about there.
Right. Another question that we have is, what about projects needing to have long-lasting impact? The one-time beach cleanup or summer camp or helping with a single blood drive seems to not have strong impact, or is that fine? So here, I do think that, again, we just want to focus on small actions can create big impact. So even if it's like a one-off project, it really depends on how the student is recording or documenting this project, and then how they will be able to translate that into their college essays or their PIQs or personal statements. So that is why we put an emphasis so much on documentation and also creating space for the student to really reflect on the experience. Was it something that challenged them and that they were able to overcome it? Or was it something that they really struggled with and they also were able to self-reflect on those challenges?
And I would say when it comes to college admissions, because ultimately this personal project is not only a really good way for the student to get more in touch with themselves and their major, but ultimately it is very good for college admissions to show a little bit of more depth in what they were able to pursue related to their major before college. When it comes to that, people in the student's life have the benefit of having had time with them and having had experiences with them where they could confidently say, yes, this person is kind or this person is caring. The thing is, college admissions doesn't have that advantage. So what students have to do is think about, how do I create this personality or something a little bit more memorable in the eyes of these college admissions readers? So in creating this personality that's memorable, that's where a personal project really comes in. And that's why we emphasize and stress the why so much, because every student has their own story. For example, our student who had that tie with her mom regarding Shark Tank, that's very unique to her story. And the reason that she did Shark Tank and it was so impactful was because of her own personal tie to it. So for other students, even if it's something that doesn't feel like it's objectively very impactful, if it ties in very strongly to their why, that's what's going to help their personality come across in their essay when they talk about it. Okay, so I think we are slowing down on the Q&A. Well, I just want to leave this up. So we created a worksheet for students to guide them along the way when working on their summer personal project. So our team's number is on the bottom, 949-775-0865. If you're interested in the worksheet, feel free to text summer to our team. And if you're interested in the summer startup challenge, just to get a consultation with their team, what that would entail, how much it all costs, you can text Ray to the same number.
Right. So I would also recommend, if you are interested in the Summer Startup Challenge, to text that number, because seats are limited and summer is just around the corner. So we'll definitely be starting this challenge soon.
Um, I'll leave this up for another 30 seconds or so, and then we can go ahead and conclude the call if there's no other questions. Really appreciate everyone taking the time out of their evening to join us, and we hope to see you again on future webinars.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.